Welcome to Subtle Propaganda. I'm Drew, coming to you live from the supervolcano that will one day destroy us all. Joining me from the hammer attack capital of America is Three Circles Mike, who has no idea what a Venn diagram is. Completing our unholy trinity, the king of conciseness, the man with the iron jaw from Hell's Kitchen, Rob. We'll be talking about current events, politics, society, world news, video games, share some of our military stories, and discuss the general state of the Union. Join our superficial and trivial conversations about the stuff that really matters while obeying our own agenda. Are we charlatans? I don't know. You decide. Oh, and remember, like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends, and don't forget to tell us how wrong we were in the comments. Go. What's going on, everyone? We're back after a little bit of a break. Some of us had to take some adventures out to the backcountry, and life happens sometimes. And your sister's dog eats rat poison, and it canceled the show. So don't worry,
How's the dog
dog's
doing?
safe. Dog's good. We got him to get the rat poison out pretty quickly, so he survived.
How'd you
But yeah,
induce vomiting? Did you stick your fingers in his mouth and hope he didn't bite you?
No, my sisters gave him. That's like a playing Russian roulette with that one. You're probably gonna come out with missing fingers, but no, hydrogen peroxide.
Ah, okay.
So
Wait, what? What about hydrogen peroxide?
you give your dog hydrogen peroxide and it'll throw up.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was
That's good
wondering
to
how
know.
you induce vomiting. I was gonna ask you next time we talked because I was like, "What? Well, now I need to know that. That's good to know." You know?
Yeah. So if your dog or pet ever eats anything, and you got to get it out, hydrogen peroxide.
Interesting. That's like what is it called? The what Epicac?
Yeah, it's like Epicac for dogs or for animals. I wonder if hydrogen peroxide would work for people.
I know that like our grandparents probably used peroxide for brushing their teeth, right? Peroxide and baking soda.
Yeah.
That was like the primitive toothpaste, or probably was a superior toothpaste. In all honesty, that's what is in regular toothpaste, right? But yeah, I'm sure it would make me throw up for sure.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe
I
human
mean, have you ever
beings.
smelled it?
No, I can't
Imagine-
say that like I've smelt it. No.
It smells bad. It smells
Does
kind of
it?
like sour. Yeah, it smells gross to me.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll have to give it a whiff.
Yeah, it's nasty.
Give it a try.
But yeah, so that was adventurous, although nowhere near, that dog didn't have nearly as bad of a time as dear friend of the show. At least I'm a big fan of his work. John McAfee, R.I.P. sadly passed away earlier this week.
He
I don't
gone.
know if he's gone. I don't know if you guys know about or know who John McAfee is, but he's a crazy, crazy dude. Like lived like literally like a movie style like life. Like it's just crazy what this guy did.
Yeah, the
I've never
only
heard
thing
of
that I
him.
know about him, I only know a little bit about him, and that's like, obviously the obvious stuff, right? McAfee antivirus stuff or whatever.
Right.
And then I did know that he tried to get like on one of the tickets for president at some point, but then also was like not even living in the United States, was like living abroad or something. I don't know. I remember some kind of drama about that with him, and that was really all I remember, honestly, about him.
Yeah. Well, I'll go give you like the quick like rundown of like briefly of like his biography. So like obviously invented McAfee antivirus software, which made him pretty famous. And that's the one thing to understand about this guy that I think a lot of people don't understand when they see him. Because if you saw him within like the last 10 years or so, like you just like this dude is crazy. He's lost his marbles. Like he's just an eccentric, millionaire that seeks attention. Seems to be like he's done too much drugs in his life, and that's probably fucked with his mind. But this guy was brilliant. Like he was like one of the most sharp coding minds like in the field. Like McAfee antivirus software was like the shit back in the day. It was cutting edge stuff. Worked for like the government, worked for Lockheed Martin for a long time. Um, he got all the way up to like worth $100 million. He had 3 wives, and he claims to have 47 children.
What?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my god.
He was the Libertarian presidential
47?
47 kids.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Could you
Um,
imagine?
no. Um, when he was pursuing his doctorate in mathematics at Northeast Louisiana State, he got kicked out for having a relationship with an undergrad student as when he was a TA. Um, he was the Libertarian presidential candidate in 2016 and in 2020. And probably like most famous, what he was most famous for was he was living in Belize for a really long time, and because apparently he's wanted for several like tax evasion charges. And while he was living in Belize, his neighbor turns up dead, and he's wanted as suspicion for like murder, like homicide. Like they want to question him for the homicide of his neighbor getting murdered. And like
Damn.
literally, dude just leaves immediately the next day and just goes to like America for a little bit, and then they threaten to like arrest him again for tax evasion, and then this dude just basically goes out on a boat and is just literally going around the world from port to port, just running away from the U.S. government, avoiding
Whoa.
tax extradition charges or tax evasion charges, and trying to avoid extradition. And that's ultimately what ended up being his falling grace. I guess I don't know what happened. He had to like go to port in Spain, and while he was there, I guess the U.S. convinced Spain to arrest him while he was in port, and he's in prison since I think January 2019, and then he just wound up dead earlier this week. And the last communication he had with the world was that he's comfortable in prison, the food is good, he's happy, definitely not suicidal, wouldn't kill himself. Like the only thing he
Of
wants
course.
is a coffee. That's the only thing he wants right now. And but other than that, he's doing good. He had some fresh ink that he wanted to show off too.
Damn,
Um,
he was getting tatted in the Spanish
he's getting
pen.
Yeah, dude. He got a tattoo
Jeez.
on his arm that said "schwacked"
Damn.
with
Dude,
a
he fit
dollar
right
sign.
in.
Yeah, dude.
Jeez. Dude, so let me ask you, did you know anything about like how much he was worth? Um anything like his total net worth? Was he poor or was he rich? Because I mean, when did he come out with McAfee? It had to come out a long time ago, right? I mean,
I think in the '80s.
yeah, dude. So like was he even worth anything anymore? I mean,
I
he
think that's
obviously
the
was still funding a lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that was the big mystery with him, is like you didn't really know how much he was really worth. Like he claimed to be worth a lot of money, but I don't really know how much of that was actual, him just
Right. Yeah,
peacocking essentially,
sure.
or like but like obviously he had to have enough money to where dude literally had a yacht that he was like, going from place to place, and then like he had a huge compound in Belize where like, dude, I'm talking about like crazy things like were coming out, like crazy rumors coming out of like this, like it's just like crazy parties, crazy drug things. Like I mean, he's even accused of murdering somebody down there. He like like a compound where like he was having girls flown in and things like that. So
I mean,
dude
it's
was
easy. I would imagine it's easy to get by down there. Like, I would imagine Belize is not extremely expensive. You know what I
and
mean? Like,
and
you go down there with
he
a couple mil and you're good to go.
right, and I think he was a brilliant mind at one point, so, like, he was supposedly, like, in pretty deep on cryptos too. I mean, but who knows how much money he actually
Yeah.
had. I mean, enough to where the government wanted their fucking share, you know?
Do you
Yeah.
know what he was do you know what kinda were they looking for taxes from, like, back when he was involved with McAfee? Or because like, from what I understand, he was gone from McAfee, right? Like, it was completely not even interacting with the company at all recently at all, right?
No, like, I think he left in, like, the early '90s, maybe
Okay.
mid-90s. And, like, dude, he's just a weird guy, like, because immediately after that, he straight up told people, "Don't use the product, uninstall it, it's not worth anything," like, it's you know?
Damn.
Damn.
So, he was always, like, a very like, if you saw an interview with him, dude, he was just talking about, like, you know, if you haven't tried heroin, you're a pussy. Like, you know, he actively played like Russian roulette. Like, there's video of him playing like Russian roulette. The dude was just off of his rocker.
Whoa.
I
Yeah.
wonder if he
How
got a
did
lot
they?
of money through like just gambling shit, like just you know doing crazy, just like Russian roulette for money or shit, like that to sustain himself.
He
Like as
kind of
far as
sounds
make.
like he kind of sounds like what's his name from fucking Danny DeVito from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Just
Kind
like an
of.
absolute psycho with a lot of money.
Dude, he was like he got detained in Port or the Dominican Republic for 4 days because of I guess like when they were in port, someone had seen a weapon and so they arrested him and like searched his boat and seized like I guess a bunch of weapons and a bunch of ammunition and then like threw him in
Damn.
jail for 4 days and then I guess threatened to have him extradited to the US and I you know who knows what happened but 4 days later he was released and they just took all of his weapons and he was on his way like cruising around the rest of the Caribbean but
Dude, not that I expect you to know this because I'm sure this is not like public knowledge from the company or anything, but like, dude, if he was told because before you were saying that he was telling people to like get rid of the software, don't use it. How the fuck is it still named after him?
I don't know.
Like, how are you
Yeah,
like how is it coming? Like, wouldn't you have rights to your own name? Like, wouldn't you be able to say like, hey, you can't use my name on this anymore or something? Like, I wonder if he like sold the rights to his own name or something and just got totally boned.
He probably did. Like he probably just um like resigned his stake complete like ownership and his stake of the company or something.
Yeah,
I
Um
but
wonder
you
if
would still
he's.
think you would be able to keep your damn name. I don't know. I'm just kind of I'm bent around the axle on that because it's like, how the hell you steal a guy's name? You know what I mean? Like,
well, like I think that's like part of maybe why he was so crazy with the end of his life cuz maybe he was trying to get him like to change the name of the product cuz I mean, I don't understand why you would want your name associated with this guy when he's literally wanted for murder. He's on the
yeah.
run. He's actively on the run from the US government because of tax evasion. And then like he's just going up there and like saying that the product is shit and like don't use it and
Well, I'm gonna be honest, man. Like I consider myself extremely in the weeds about a lot of stuff. I have a lot more time than probably most people do to be reading about shit. I didn't know anything about this guy. So like McAfee sells to me because I know that as like the antivirus brand, right? Like I don't know anything about this guy's misbehavior at all. I didn't know anything about him, you know? So I bet that's why they don't want to lose it is because, the average free range in person doesn't know shit about him. And then, but they certainly recognize that antivirus name, you know?
Yeah, that's how
yeah.
I look at it. I never knew anything about that dude's personal life. I didn't even know it was named after a person. I just thought it was the name of, like I had no idea either. So
No, sure.
I
I
mean,
was
it's
wondering if
really hard.
that's how
Sorry,
also
go
he was
ahead.
making his money to, like, if he was still getting dividends. Like I don't know how it is when you're on the run. Do they like if he doesn't get any money from any of his other business like rights or stuff, right? They seize it all.
I bet
So
if
did
you
he
owe
just have a.
taxes, nothing goes to you, dude.
No.
Yeah.
Ever.
So maybe he got like a buyout or something, just been living like he's not rich, but he has enough money that's invested in just like being on the run. So it seems like he's living good and has like a lot of money, but really he doesn't really he's like cash poor, but has a lot of shit. And especially if he's in cheaper areas, it goes a lot further.
I mean, he's like your classic venture capital type of dude. Like he's very charismatic, speaks very well, he's intelligent. You could tell like after he gave up his stake in McAfee, he just did like a series of things where he would like run with a company idea for a little bit and then it would go down to the ground and then he'd reemerge again and then same thing, run it into the ground and then reemerge. And that's basically what he did up until the like law really started encircling it on him in 2013. So I guess he had just accumulated enough wealth between when he left the company in like the 90s and 2013 to where he had enough to sustain himself on like this, pirate lifestyle. I mean, it's really hard to get like a good sense of what the dude was like if you haven't seen an interview with him. And if you haven't, I would like highly recommend like Look up his appearances on the Dick Masterson show, or look up his appearance on PKA. Like, the dude was just deranged and a loose cannon, like just crazy dude.
Damn.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So what do you think? I guess let's get to the good stuff, man. I mean, what do you think? Like, do you think he took a Epstein special, or was this legit? Did he finally just kind of reach the end of the road? He wasn't able to drink or shoot dope anymore since he's in jail. He saw the light at the end of the tunnel and just kind of decided to bow out.
I think that's what it is, man. I think he saw the light at the end of it. He was going to be extradited from Spain to the US, and I think he just realized, like, dude, I'm going to prison forever for the amount of like money I owe in taxes, and I'd rather be dead than be in prison the rest of my life.
How was he also, I mean, good point, and I just wonder, like, how was he also? Because I remember seeing him, like, well, I obviously followed Trump's rise, like, very, in politics, that was, one of a kind type of thing, when it comes to populism in the United States, and I remember the grumblings of him in 2016, although they were dwarfed, obviously, by Trump, but, like, how was he able to do this if he was he not wanted at that time? Like, did they only just start looking for him, like, 6 months ago or something? Like, I what money was he
He
fucking making? I'm so confused on this shit,
I
like.
think he was I think he was very, like, strategic for a long time of going to places to where there wasn't easy extradition to the US. So, like,
Mm,
when he left Belize and he was essentially on the so, like, he was basically wanted by the Belize government for suspected homicide, or at least
yeah, for the
connection
killing.
with the homicide, yeah. So, like, the US government didn't really have anything to do with that. The government just wanted their tax money back, or they wanted their taxes.
Right.
And I think he was just very strategic about where he would dock or go to port with his yacht, and just stayed in areas to where they couldn't really get him, or he would catch wind of, like, them kind of on his trail, and then he'd take off again in international waters. And then I think his downfall was he went to Europe in 2019, and, like, they're a lot more friendly with, like, extradition laws than they are in the Caribbean, or like South American countries, or Central America. So
Alright, so you don't think he got smoked. He doesn't seem like he's the type of dude who has any kind of information on anything that anybody would wanna get rid of him about. Um, so he probably just killed himself because he knew the party was over, so he bows out. But what do you make of all of these, what do you make of all the tax stuff? And, like, do you think that this dude was just a real thorn in the side and they started just going after him for everything? Or, like, do you think he actually owed a shitload of money and was just riding out? Like, how do you feel about all the tax stuff? I mean, I just feel like, dude, sometimes I wonder about, like, what we should do to people that owe back taxes. Like, should we really put them in prison for like 100 years because they didn't, like, what happened to Wesley Snipes? Like, they ruined Wesley Snipes' life because he, like, went to Africa and didn't pay taxes. I don't know.
right, yeah, no, like, same thing with Peter Schiff's dad. Peter Schiff's dad died in prison because he refused to pay taxes. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's bizarre to me because, like, the thing that you want is the tax dollars. Um, so I just don't understand, like, why you have to go to prison for them. Why don't you just put, like, a lien against what they owe, so it just comes directly out of the paycheck, or a fund that they have or something, so they can't get out of it if you really want the money, or if that's what you're really concerned about. I don't know why you know you got to spend X amount of years in prison for it, but
Yeah. I mean,
it's
I guess you're
because
right with, like, that, like, how you're gonna get the money, because it's also one of these things too that, like, he also loses everything in the sense of he's not paying his taxes, and now he has to live in international waters. He can't vote. He can't benefit from the freedom or the, or the defense posture of the United States, right? Like, liberty is obviously an essential thing that happens in the United States, but, we have police and we have military, and we have, like, defenses for that stuff. Bro, if you're just fucking sailing around the ocean, there's nobody defending you. You know what I mean? Like, you're
right.
defending your own stuff. So, like, he doesn't benefit from any of those public goods. So, like, it kind of almost seems like a square deal, like, to where it's one of these things where, like, okay, leave if you want to come back and you want to have a nice life again and stop being living in the fucking middle of the ocean. then come pay your tax bill, right? And if you don't want to, then just how big of a problem is this that you would want to create such a disincentive that like I'll sentence you to 100 years in prison or something? Like, are there just tons of people that are escaping to international waters to not pay taxes? Like it seems kind of I don't know, that part of it just is tough for me to wrap my head around. If that make I don't know if I'm articulating it well enough, but it's tough for me to wrap my head around that.
No, it makes sense because it's like all you want is the money, but do you like is it really worth? It's like when people have warrants, but they don't ever look for them; they just wait for them to get caught doing something else because it's not worth the time. So it's like, okay, well, if he enters back into the U.S. waters or U.S. territories, we'll grab him. But why spend why spend more money on the dude to arrest him and then pay for him to be in prison instead of just garnishing his wages wherever he tries to work again and do it that way or something? Yeah, because it is weird when you think about it because the whole point is to get their money and they're not getting their money. They're spending more money to not get any money.
Yeah, just deny him everything that like we as Americans enjoy, right? Like I mean, if you're living in the middle of the ocean, I'm sure it's kind of tough to shop at Apple, right? I'm sure it's not very easy to be like to be in the economy to like benefit from things. Dude, I don't know. I mean, like, dude, I was just in the Catskills for like 2 days, and there's like 5 restaurants in the town that I was in total. You know what I mean? Like that's here. That's it. That's in the continental United States. That's fucking 2 hour, 2.5 hours away from the biggest city in the United States. Like, and you got 5 restaurants. Imagine what it's like being in the middle of the fucking ocean. You know what I mean? I mean, Mike, you've been on ship. What's it like to port for all of your stuff? You know what I mean? Like, it's not fun. So
No.
I don't see the big loss here. Like, why you would chase a dude to the ends of the earth. Like, if he just doesn't want to be a part of this anymore, let him go. Like, put out the APB, right? Like, let all of America know, like, hey, this dude's cheating the system. If we get him, we got to make him pay somehow, right? Like, whatever it is. But really, like, you're gonna do some international,
Manhunt.
apprehension squat. Yeah, like, what the fuck, dude? It's very strange, dude. I don't know. That stuff doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
You know what it
Yeah, I
seems
don't.
like almost is like accountability, budget, justification, like closing cases. Like what looks better for you if you spend a little more money, but you can show that you have like all these closed cases, or you have a lot of outstanding cases, but you didn't spend any money chasing dudes around the world.
I'm not sure, man, because like I think it also might be like an international favors thing where like, there are other countries that they know that if they do this favor for us, we'll do favors for them. Um, Although I have a feeling, I have the sneaking suspicion that Spain has a far less amount of criminals that we need to extradite back to Spain than they have American criminals that maybe end up in Spanish borders. That's just kind of a sneaking suspicion that I have. But generally speaking, I think that I don't know what it is. I've never gotten the whole tax. I know that like the government will ruthlessly pursue you if you don't pay your taxes. Taxes and dying, that's like the two things that are assured, right? The age old trope. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is because it really seems to me that like, and I don't want to sound too much like a libertarian fence sitting loser here, but like it seems to me that like you should probably be going after like the Apples of the world that are holding all their money in a place like Ireland and not paying any taxes at all on like billions of dollars, like next to $1 trillion, versus a guy like John McAfee. Like, what do you think his tax bill was to the government? Like, it could not have been in excess of $10 million. $20 million. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was secretly a billionaire and he owed them 100 million. That's still you couldn't shake a stick at almost $1 trillion that's sitting in Ireland for Apple, right? And the fact they're using slave labor over in China to assemble their phones, and we could go all day about this stuff. It's like, um, it seems very inefficient to be chasing the small fish, right? I guess, you got to do it. I don't know. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it
Fucking
doesn't
government
make
doesn't
any
make
sense
sense.
why you would waste that amount of resources on somebody who, in the long scale, is very menial as far as like tax dollars go, versus
Right.
a corporation that is generating billions and billions a year that can be taxed. So,
No,
I
totally.
I wonder if it has anything to do with his political leanings. Like, being the face of the libertarian candidate. Well, it was, I shouldn't say the libertarian party, because that's a disaster in its own
Very
right, and that's a completely separate discussion. But like being this voice of libertarianism, of like, hey, you shouldn't tax me for my work. My work is mine. It belongs to me. Like, what is the government? The classic libertarian argument, which falls part under scrutiny. But like, I don't know. He's a dude who used to have a lot of clout or power one time in the tech world, and kind of makes people look like idiots sometimes when you get in. You can have a decent conversation with him, but because he's a smart guy. But I
Well,
don't know.
I was gonna same vein as that. Like, I was thinking less about his political leanings and more that like he was probably if he was saying like get rid of this shit, don't use this program anymore. Like somebody has to own this thing. I don't know if it's Microsoft or who the fuck owns McAfee antivirus, but it sounds like it would be a real thorn in your side if every single computer that you produce comes with McAfee antivirus and the guy named McAfee is saying, "Get rid of this garbage. Like, you don't want it. I made it. It's bad. Like, get it out of here." It sounds like it would be a big thorn in their side, and that it might be in their best interest to lobby their government pals. Because let's be honest, that absolutely does happen. To lobby their government pals to say, "Hey, put some pressure. Tighten the screws on this guy. He's fucking with my business." I think that makes a lot of sense too. I mean, as far as the political leaning stuff, I'm not exactly familiar with what his stances were. I mean, if he's just going like for the whole like we don't need taxes thing, like I'm not even sure who takes that serious. Besides like maybe a couple of weirdos who like don't like to roll their windows down for the cops and say they're like a free citizen or something, whatever it is.
I
I'm
am
not.
a sovereign
Yeah, I'm a
citizen.
sovereign
Yeah.
citizen. Yeah, exactly. I'm a sovereign citizen, dude. Like, yeah, those are the only people that take those kind of arguments serious. I think. I mean, there's libertarian stuff that comes out of like the University of Chicago, like Milton Friedman and the like from the econ department. That makes sense, right? There's some libertarian stuff there when it comes to rational choice and stuff like that. That makes sense. But generally speaking, I don't think anybody in their right mind thinks that we should just stop paying taxes because well, how the fuck do you have anything in a how do you have any public goods in a society if nobody pays for them, right? The government is not a revenue generating area of the economy.
That always blows my mind when people don't think they should pay taxes. Like, oh, you don't want to participate in society, but you want to use all the benefits. Well, go live in the middle of the ocean then, because otherwise it's not going to work. Because I bet you really like having streets and stoplights at work. You know?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys take issue with the whole roads argument and stuff because it's already an established good, it's been paid for, but like, generally speaking, man, like you want to like there's a couple ways to do it, right? Like I think probably the most in your face way to fund a society is by essentially being a fucking pirate, right? And we go to Mexico or we go to Canada and we take their shit. We go on the warpath, we take their shit and we fund our society that way, right? And then nobody has to pay taxes, but then you live in a perpetual state of warfare, right? It's not good. Not a lot of people like that. Canada wouldn't like it. Mexico wouldn't like it. They'd retaliate. It would be a drama, right? And people don't want to live like that. You want to live in peace. You want to live in relative peace, right? Like everybody likes their peace and comfort. So, I think over time we've kind of adopted this strategy that says, hey, we've realized that like going places and taking things doesn't necessarily work out to be best. So maybe we just have our own agreement amongst ourselves as civilized people that says, hey, you pay, I pay. We're neighbors. We're both Americans or Brits or whatever it is in your established societies that are first world, and we all benefit from it, right? It's when the government gets really fucking dumb with how they spend the money, and those are whole different arguments, right? Those are totally different arguments. But generally speaking, like you have to fund it some way, and so like my big thing is when I'm talking to someone that has this view if you really don't want to pay taxes, then pick up your rifle and let's go take somebody's stuff. Right? Let's do it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the only other way. Like, in my opinion, that's the only other way. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to nationalize your resources? Okay, you're a communist. And usually libertarians don't really like that idea either, right? They do like free market enterprise, right? They like freedom. So it's a tough one, dude. It's a tough one.
Yeah, they go in the opposite direction. They go towards anarchy rather than
Right.
communism.
Yeah. And it's like we all know that like any rational thinking person knows that that's kind of silly. It's not going to work out. Um, do I think that we need to take our mom and dad's money from their retirement and tax their money so they can't save to retire so that we could shoot rockets into space? I'm not convinced on that one, right? Like that's not I'm not super convinced on that. Do I think that we should tax some of their money for retirement to maybe have bridges so that I have the potential to go to work and then maybe you can tax mine so that my kids do and blah blah blah. Like I don't know. That seems to maybe make sense to me. I'm not sure. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is too people just don't like how it's split up either because they see their paycheck going to taxes because they don't have the loopholes and the ability to hide it, and they see trillionaires like you mentioned, like you putting their money in other countries, and I think that's what really just makes a lot of people mad when you have the tax argument with them, whether they want to admit it or not. Is probably a lot of based on they feel like they're not people aren't paying their fair share, so they just go with the opt out
Yeah.
plan. You know.
I won't spend too much time on this, but I think I'm not sure how much you guys want to deep dive this for the episode. We don't have a ton of time tonight, but like I think it's actually what you said, Mike. I think there are a few folks that are smart enough to kind of look into these things and say, hey, yeah, there are a couple corporations well, pretty much all corporations that are fucking us and not paying their fair share. But I think it's actually the opposite, and I think there's a lot more people on this spectrum that are looking at folks and saying they don't do anything and they get benefit from my tax dollars. Right. That's more
Yeah, yeah,
that's the big problem is that
I
like
could see
they look
that.
out and they say, oh yeah, there's poor people in society that don't work and don't fucking do anything and they're getting benefit from my tax dollars. And I don't know. I think that there's probably some level of credence to that. It depends on what studies you believe. The government puts out lots of studies that say all the time that there's not certain demographics that do this, that there's not any problem with welfare, right? I'm not sure. I'm not so sure how much money I would bet on those studies being entirely accurate. I think generally speaking that like in a society you have an obligation to take care of like your elderly and to take care of your infirm, right? People who can't take care of themselves. And so I think that that's a good use of tax dollars. Like I would have no problem paying to make sure that like the old lady that lives here in New York City that can't go get her groceries gets her groceries delivered to her. Or like for instance, like if she needs a COVID vaccine and like has no caretakers, how's she going to get down there? How's she going to get to go get it? I'm happy to pay my taxes so that they will bring it to her door and give it to her at her house, right? Like, and that's not me being like, a good person. I just think that that's better than shooting a rocket into space, right? Like, I'm happy to take care of that person. She was probably a productive person, or he was a productive person in their lives for the 80 years that they were alive, or whatever, right? And paved part of what this is for me to be able to make money. So I'm happy to do that. But like, yeah, like I said, like shooting a rocket into space, I think that's fucking dumb. I keep beating that up, but that's kind of my pet peeve. I
The
hate
vac
watching my money literally go up in smoke.
the vaccine lotteries are taxpayer money, right? All the vaccine lotteries,
Yeah, they sure
like
were. And I had an interesting conversation with some folks about this too. They brought up some interesting points. For anybody that's listening now, I'll just recap real quick. Like we talked about vaccine lotteries. Um, I think we were don't let me put words in your guys' mouth, so stop me if I was wrong, but, like, I think we were kinda all of the notion that this was not a good idea, that it was kind of, generally shady, that you would use tax dollars to coax your poorer populations to do something that they normally wouldn't. And actually, I've had some interesting arguments levied back to me that said, "Hey, it's the same thing by them making it free." Because if we're going to be honest with ourselves here on this show together, how many of you guys would have got the COVID vaccine if you had to pay $60 versus if it was free or $30 or whatever dollar amount you want to ascribe to it, right? Like, I
yeah,
don't think I would have paid for it ever. Like,
yeah,
part of the reason why I did get it was it was free.
yeah. Part of the reason why I got it was because it was easy. I got a text message. I replied
Right.
with a time and a day, and they said you're scheduled, and I just had to all I had to do was show up and be there on time. Because yeah, if I had to like pay for it or go out of my way, probably wouldn't have gotten it yet. I would have just waited until it was so available that it was easy.
Right. I appreciate you being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have gotten it anyway, but I mean, just it's free and it was convenient made it a hell of a lot easier to get. Um, anyway, just because like I just know where this road is going, and like, dude, I will not be surprised if like employers mandate it. So, or like where I'm going to medical school, like they're going to mandate it. Like you have to
Sure.
get it. So, like I just see, like I rather make the choice myself than had the choice be made for me. So,
Yeah, I would
Oh
have
yeah,
got it
totally.
for sure, but I wouldn't have gotten it as fast. I guess it was my main thing. Like I probably would have like I had no objection to getting it, but the only reason I got it so fast was because of the fact it was free and easy. Otherwise, I probably would just put it off, Like, "Oh, I'll get it eventually." And then something like that would happen or something would push me to be like, "All right, it's time to go do it," Because some obligation or some restriction.
and we would have gotten it for free anyway because we're veterans via healthcare.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
So,
Well, yeah, I'm really just trying to talk about more of like the barriers to entry, right? And I think you hit it on the head, Drew, that like, you may not have gotten it as fast or whatever it may be, right? Like,
mhm.
um, but I thought that was an interesting counter argument because it is kind of the inverse argument, like the true blue contrarian argument to, how fucked up it is to use tax dollars to coax people to getting it. That's kind of what they've done by making it free. I just still feel like there's something inherently shady about giving away large sums of money. Something else just kind of bugs me about that, but we don't have to keep deep diving that. We can let the viewers make their own choices on it, whether they think we've kind of covered it both in both episodes decently, um, but yeah,
Yeah.
certainly, man. I mean, taxes are not they're not a fun thing, right? But like, they're certainly I don't want to see anybody get hung up for taxes. Like I
Mhm.
don't there's nobody out there walking around right now where I'm like, oh yeah, like this guy deserves to hang because he hasn't fucking given me tax money. Like what? It's kind of
Or
very
use
strange. I don't
or they
know. It's
use
like a weird
the
thing.
tax thing to get you like Al Capone, like something like loophole like that to send you to jail. I don't know if like that goes
Yeah.
on the same vein of like, all right, we can't get you on anything else, but we can get you on this. So we're gonna hammer you on this one aspect because we really know what you've been doing.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think that's a good point. It's an interesting point, and I actually like just have like very I'm not obviously not a lawyer, but I have like very precursory knowledge about this. Like when it comes to like RICO cases, racketeering stuff. Um, that was all because like honestly, these guys owned the police, they owned the local governments, they owned everybody, dude. So like you could not get anyone to fucking squeal on them or to give you a shred of evidence. So the federal government had to basically create a statute that said like, "Hey, I can actually get you in a courtroom for this." Right. And that's really it was like a major milestone for them to get organized criminals off the streets because honestly, bro, like these guys had such iron grips. I mean, dude, you look at guys like listen to this, like a real quick anecdote. Fucking Lucky Luciano, bro, from New York City. He is thoroughly known to have done this. It's obviously it's more myth and legend than it is fact. Like no one can prove these things. But basically, Lucky Luciano was kind of running the mob around the time of World War II, and the Navy was bringing ships into the Navy Yard, and basically the mob wasn't getting cut in. So he and when I say he, no one can prove this, right? It's more myth than it is fact. But supposedly, a Navy ship gets bombed in New York Harbor. So all of a sudden, Lucky Luciano receives a government contract to start guarding the ships, and the Italian mob gets cut in. It's these are people that literally could own, like, I mean, the highest levels of government, dude. The highest fucking levels, dude. You know, and they were able to pass it off that New York Harbor had this kind of, you know, imminent threat from the Japanese or from the Germans, and you had to get Italian mob guys to stand on the fucking dock and make sure ships didn't blow up. And that was a US Navy war vessel, dude. And that is a true story by the accounts of like, what we consider to be true today, right? And no one can prove these things because this happened, fucking 80 years ago under the cover of who knows what. But it makes for like an interesting anecdote that these guys were getting so much power. Like who else do you know controls the Navy like that,
right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
geez, man, like that's crazy.
Yeah, instead of getting just a task force and just get annihilated, they give them a contract and be like, "Yeah, you guys can just do whatever. We'll pay you to go away or to cooperate."
Well, and also you got to think like back then, this guy he had stomping power in the street, like he could put people to work, right? So like the Navy doesn't want it. The Navy wants to focus on a war effort. They don't want to scramble to put together, some organization of people. So they just go to the nearest, easiest, and turn the spigot, and bam, you got guys guarding the harbor. And it was like a union job. It was like being a construction worker or being a garbage man.
Yeah,
So
the old school
uh,
union of the mob where it
yeah,
started.
exactly.
Yeah.
So like you never know like what lengths you have to go to. My point is to circle back to your point is that you just don't know what lengths you have to go to actually be able to indict these people when they have that much power. You know what I mean? Like so you have to come up with something very legalese like tax code or something like that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
I mean, it's interesting because it's like they're essentially using the law against itself.
Right.
Because if you by using
No, that's totally
omerta,
true.
by like using omerta, like you can't. How can you ever do your job like the way that our legal system is set up? It's supposed to be essentially like two steps removed from like direct interaction, where like or direct intervention, where like you're literally having people killing one another for like committing petty crimes against one another. Like you have the state come in and they get represented and all that stuff, and then a punishment is dealt out accordingly. But you can't do any of that if like nobody's willing to testify against anyone or like provide evidence for it. So you have to create something in order to get like you create a new mouse, you got to create a new mousetrap. So
Right.
Yeah.
I mean
Exactly.
it's shitty, but like I mean think about like how I mean we changed our constitution because of the way that the mob was operating.
Yep.
So, I mean, it has dramatic impact on on a societal level and cultural level. So,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
these
well,
guys they were running everything, man. Like, can't fuck everything, including government. I mean, there's even rumors that that JFK got installed by the mob, right? Like, there's all these
yeah.
conspiracies about the mob, dude.
dude, I think we should do a episode just on the mob. I think we should do that in
Oh,
the
dude, I
future.
could talk ad nauseam. Dude, I'm from New York, man. I could talk ad nauseam about the mob, dude. I love it. There's so many good, dude. I mean, even like, dude, where we do the Marine Corps birthday every year here in New York City, a place called Sparks Steakhouse. Paul Castellano, old mob boss of the Gambino crime family, was gunned down by John Gotti outside of Sparks Steakhouse. We do it there every year, and this is like a famous place, man. I mean, there's so much. There's a like. I'm not like I'm not big on this whole criminal, fucking Italian bullshit. But like, it is really cool history. It is like really cool history to see kind of where the city's roots came from in that way. But yeah, man, came out after eating a nice fat steak, picking his teeth, and then John Gotti said, "Nope, I'm gonna be the head of Gambino crime family," and fucking smoked his ass.
Damn.
Fucking, and they knew it was him, and no one could do shit. They didn't do a damn thing. They knew it was
Yeah.
him. No one could do a
The
fucking thing.
I don't I don't know if everybody realized how much the mob actually really influenced like the economy and laws and structure through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, like through prohibition, through union, through Vegas blow up, through the Atlantic City, the whole East Coast, like all was like somewhat related to the mob being so
Dude,
powerful.
everywhere.
Otherwise, all that infrastructure wouldn't even
Chicago,
exist. Yeah.
huge. Big time,
Yeah.
man.
It's cool that something like Sparks still exists because like our most famous thing we have in Chicago, the St. Valentine's Massacre,
Yep.
it's like a fucking like high rise apartment complex or something, some shit like that.
Ah, see, that
Yeah,
fucking sucks.
it's not even like close to what because well, like I guess where it occurred was like in some alley, like next to some little shop or whatever. So it wasn't like it was. I don't even think it was a business that was like currently in business at the time, and that's why like you could basically
Right.
line fucking a bunch of dudes up to a wall and just gun them down with Tommy guns. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Sparks is awesome, man.
pretty cool,
Yeah.
pretty
It is
crazy.
Sorry.
super interesting. Like I
Yeah,
always think
Sparks
about
is
it
legit.
from how much
Oh,
impact
Mike,
it
sorry.
had. So I was just gonna say I always look at the mob as like kind of like the history fact of like they weren't just like they had so much reach that it curbed the way that we operate today because of it. Like the FBI, and Hoover and all that shit that was established just to combat them. They were so, like you mentioned, they were so powerful that we literally installed a new form of to combat them. You know,
No, for
it's
sure,
crazy.
man. Yeah, I think I don't know. I have like a bunch of little ones that I've learned like when I was a kid, living here and living amongst the fucking Italians that glorify this stuff. Um, there are many, many little, nooks around New York that are huge, huge. It's all mob stuff, you know what I mean? All mob stuff. You look at the old, like, union debates, they had these union debates that were televised, and these were, like, straight up bro, these were straight up mobsters. These are, like, Italians that never even graduated high school. They're fucking just in there fighting tooth and nail, for more money or for scabs or whatever it is. And yeah, man, I mean, it was definitely a very mob controlled city. Chicago is very much the same. I mean, dude, there's been like a million pieces of media that have come out of this too, that kind of that describe it. Maybe when we get to our end here where we do a Drewski Film Festival, I'll throw out a couple recs because I think I know at least one I would recommend for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say some of the old mob movies that are actually based on real life events are so awesome to watch.
Mm.
Like
Oh, they're all really good.
they're all so good, man.
Yeah, like stuff like Casino, Goodfellas, all that stuff is
Yeah.
like, dude, that's the best, man. They're really good. It's
The
real good. And
Irishman.
Yeah, The
I didn't watch
Irishman's
The
great.
Irishman. I didn't
It's
watch it.
very divisive. Either
I
you
heard it's
love it or
long
you
and
it's
yikes.
it's really long. And that scene where Robert De Niro tries to stop a man to death, so awful. So
Really?
awful. Dude, it's like Martin Scorsese, like you're a brilliant filmmaker. Just use a body like no one's believing that old fucking Robert De Niro with makeup on just stomping a dude to death outside his shop. Like just use a body double or stuntman. Like it
I'm
was
very
it's it's bad.
I'm very into everything that's Joe Pesci. I think Joe Pesci is the best mobster in a movie. He's small, he's got the worst voice. You want to hate him, and he just kills everybody. He's just the most violent guy, and it's like it's everything that you would expect from a mobster, right? Because like a real Italian mobster, have you ever seen people from Sicily? They're not known for being tall. They're not Northern Europeans. They're fucking little, fat, dumpy fucking people, right? And that's exactly what Joe Pesci is. And he'll kill you with a pen, he'll shoot you with a head, out of nowhere. Like I love Joe Pesci in a mob movie, dude. He fucking makes them all for me.
He's great in The Irishman. He's one of the highlights for sure.
Yeah, dude. He's definitely one of the best. I don't know.
Yeah.
I I think the original Godfathers too were well, I shouldn't say the original, just the Godfathers were amazing as well. They were very, very well done.
I don't understand how
Yeah.
people say they can't sit through them or they don't like them because they're too long. Like, bro, they're great. You gotta just watch them, man. You just gotta do it.
These are people that
No,
just don't like they're just people that just don't like movies, bro. They don't like good movies. They'd rather watch a Taylor Swift documentary or something.
Right.
or
They're running into the theaters to see Fast 9 where fucking Vin
Yeah.
yeah.
Diesel's fucking fly in with like a hook on the bottom of his car to
Exactly.
another hook. Like that this is the type of thing that
Exactly.
they like. Like that oh
Yeah.
like now you have my attention. Like they don't like the
Just
subtlety of like basically this golden child who like is a actual good human being, war hero, Ivy League educated, literally has the world ahead of him, and his fucking horrible, disgusting family just pulls him down and turns him into an absolute fucking monster by the end of it. Like they can't appreciate that. No, that's too nuanced for him.
that's too much
So
storytelling. There's not enough
yeah.
blowing up, and it's like I call it like Transformer movies. It's not enough just action and blowing up
Yeah.
and just
There's not enough
constant.
noises and
Yeah.
explosions, so
Yeah. Not enough
Well,
CGI.
since we're already on it, I mean, fuck it, man. We're already talking about all this stuff. I mean, what do you guys got as far as movies? I mean, I was gonna rec for everybody. It's more maybe Drew knows more about this too from a graphic novel perspective. Sorry. Yeah,
having a bit of a a delivery issue
No,
here.
these guys are ridiculous, dude. They don't understand that like this is 1,000 square foot apartment. They ring it like it's an 8-story building. They're just fucking obnoxious sometimes. But anyway, apologies. Yeah, I was gonna recommend Road to Perdition. I think it's phenomenal, dude. Have you guys
Oh
ever
yeah,
seen
that's
it?
a
I have
really good
not seen
movie.
that.
It's a
No.
real good movie, dude. So Mike, you got to cut it in. It was a graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
I've never read the graphic novel, but now I'm super interested. It has Tom Hanks. So Tom Hanks, regardless of your opinions about him, I think he's good. He's a good actor. We can all
Yeah.
agree, like he's a decent actor. So you can't really go wrong. But it's a good flick, man. Basically the skinny
Netflix,
is
Hulu, Amazon.
it's an old movie, dude,
Old
so
movie.
I
Okay.
think you can find it on Hulu because it's through HBO. That's what I think
Okay.
you can find it on right now. That's what I watched it on, was on Hulu, but I don't know if it's on Hulu or HBO because I don't pay attention to what the difference is. But
Right.
basically, the movie is, you have a dude who's working for the Irish mob, kind of. He's like one of these orphan guys that gets put on by a guy who is like his father figure. Things go south, and he ends up going to the mattresses with the Chicago mob, and it's fucking awesome. It's a really good movie, man. I thought it was really well done, and I'm actually pretty pumped about reading the graphic novel. But I mean, what do you guys got? Any other ones? I've got a couple to talk about tonight. If we have time, but what do you guys got? Anything good? We might as well jump on it, right? Fuck it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
trying to think of.
I got a couple. I got one since you mentioned Tom Hanks. It just came to my mind because I was watching it on the flight back from Arizona to Chicago. News of the World with Tom Hanks. Um,
Okay. Not
it's
familiar with it.
it sounds like it's not great. It's a fine movie. It's entertaining enough. But it's about a guy who goes from town to town, basically just reading the news. Like, just rides in and is just like, hey, I've got, all the papers. I've got a selection of papers from around the country. I'll tell you what's going on. And like they pay him to read the news or whatever. But
Whoa.
anyway, he gets caught up with this girl, like this white girl who's been raised by Native Americans, and like, he's trying to find like she has papers with her that like she's got family in like this remote area in Texas, and he basically has to ride across like Indian country to go get her there, and it's just like about the him trying to do it, and like he's a disgraced Confederate soldier, but he's trying to make it in the world. It's decently done. It's kind of forgettable, but it's not as good as Road to Perdition. Road to Perdition might be the most unsung Tom Hanks performance of all time. Like it's one of the
Really
probably
that
the
good?
least talked about. Like, well, it's like Tom Hanks has a lot of performances, but like nobody ever brings up, oh, you know what he was great in? Road to Perdition. They always bring up Philadelphia or
Yeah.
Saving Private
Saving Private
Ryan.
Ryan or
Yeah.
Forrest Gump.
It was kind of like for Road to Perdition, and Drew, I will check that movie out because that sounds pretty good. It kind of sounds up the alley of, what's that movie with the dude who's like the disgraced bounty hunter who takes a little girl to find the people who killed her dad.
Oh, it's like True Grit a little
True
bit.
Grit.
It's like a
It
modern
sounds
True
very
Grit.
similar to
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it sounds very
Mhm.
similar to that. So I love True Grit. I love the old one and I love the modern one. I think they're both phenomenal films. So that sounds fun. For me, I love westerns, man. I mean, dude, I got Billy the Kid tattooed on me. I'm all about westerns, dude. Um, but yeah, with Road to Perdition, it was kind of like how, how Denzel had to be a bad guy before he got the Oscar. It was like Tom Hanks was a bad guy in this, and he was like the quiet, strong, stoic bad guy. And I thought he did a pretty decent job on it, even though his speaking roles weren't like incredibly like robust. But he just wasn't recognized for it. Like Drew said, like nobody gave a shit. I thought he did a good job though, because he always
Mhm.
plays like this good old, makes you feel good kind of guy, right? Like
Yeah, he's like
down
He's
to
your
like the
earth
dad.
kind of guy.
hero. He's like the
Yeah,
hero
right.
Right.
guy,
Yeah.
the hero
And
you look up to him or something.
this was his bad guy, and nobody really paid attention. Even though
Um,
it was still a good guy, right? Like you walk away from the film
right.
still knowing who's good and who's bad. But I mean, dude, when you're fucking shooting people in the face, dude, like you're
Yeah.
not necessarily a good guy. It has Jude Law in it too. It's one of Jude
Mhm.
Law, I believe, his earlier performances.
Mhm.
Not earliest, but certainly an earlier
Early in
performance
his
of him.
career.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would argue that Tom Hanks is the villain in Saving Private Ryan as well. like fucking making them go through that goddamn fucking
Bunker.
pillbox. Like, yeah, it was
That's
like
it.
he's like, dude, can't we just fucking go around it? And he's like,
Yeah.
no, we're going through it because if somebody else comes, they're gonna kill them. And it's like, oh, you do it, and then your fucking medic's dead. Good job, asshole. Like,
Yeah.
could go around.
He was a teacher. He was a teacher,
Yeah.
man. He didn't know
Yeah.
better. He's a teacher. They commissioned him because he had a degree. He was doing everything he could.
Yeah.
He's doing everything
He's
he
got the shakes at the end there.
Yeah. The compass shakes.
The war wasn't agreeing with him.
Yeah,
But,
too much stress.
Another movie I saw, I'd be interested to see what you guys thought about it. So Zack Snyder did another movie other than the Justice League. He
Okay.
did Army of the Dead, which is on
Ooh.
Netflix. And I mean, I think Snyder's first film was the remake of Dawn of the Dead, which pretty good zombie flick.
Just gave it a quick Google. I've seen this I haven't watched it. I've seen it on the headline because of Dave Bautista. I really
Right.
like him.
I love Dave Bautista. He's actually like, dude, for
He's
that
really good,
dude
dude.
being a professional wrestler, he's a
Dude, he's
great
really good.
actor. Like
He's hilarious.
He's
He's
good pretty
very
much
funny,
in
dude.
anything he does. He like does a really good job no matter what role he plays.
Yeah.
And it'd be interested in what you guys think about this movie because it's a return to form, return to zombies for Zack Snyder, but unfortunately, he wrote this movie. So
Oh no.
starts out intriguing, ends with a, I will say, whimper, but
Ay.
yeah,
I'll
it gets
watch it tonight. I was looking for a movie to watch, so I'll click it on for sure.
Yeah, I'll watch it and then we can talk about it next week too, for sure.
yeah. It's
You can never go wrong with a zombie film, you know? Like
Yeah.
they're you got to watch them. They're always good. One that I wanted to bring up with you guys that I thought was like actually really good. It's not a good documentary because I don't like what they're doing with documentaries now. They're making them docu-series and they take forever to get to the fucking point.
Yeah.
This one's called Wormwood. Have you guys seen it? It's on Netflix.
I've heard about it. I have never watched it. I've had it in the queue forever. I just haven't watched it.
So I would recommend giving it a watch, but more I would recommend reading about the story of this guy. I'll just give the listeners just a quick, deal. I won't give you basically what you get in the first episode. No spoilers here. But basically, it is about a man who named Frank Olson, who was involved in the biological warfare, basically germ warfare at the time, with Korea, for the United States Army. He's a scientist, and he was working with many different folks on basically making biological weapons, and enhancing their power. Somehow, he is unwittingly introduced into the MK Ultra program, and he has started to give LSD by some CIA agents that he is meeting with based on the biological warfare program that he's providing updates with them on. And these guys kind of become like a clique, and he starts to kind of lose his stuff a bit. He loses his marbles a bit. Next thing you know, he jumps out of a New York City hotel window and kills himself. And it's all about his son. His son is an extremely educated and extremely smart guy, educated at Harvard. Obviously, his father's son, very, very intelligent man. And it's all about his son's quest to uncover what happened during the course of these MK Ultra experiments with his father, and was the government complicit in his father's death? And dude, I mean, it is actually really good. I mean, his son is really well spoken and like very educated, very smart guy. Um, they go through lots of different history that like I had never known about. These guys went to Capitol Hill. They were given money by the government through Congress, like through congressional bill based on his father's death. I mean, it's really wild stuff, like a
Wow.
really wild piece of history that like isn't talked about. I thought it was actually a good documentary in the sense that like you learn something about history you didn't know about, and about MK Ultra that you didn't know about, because usually you hear about the normal shit with MK Ultra. This is kind of one of those far-fetched ones. But it is very slow. You're probably they have actual real actors acting out portions of it, which is just totally unnecessary.
Oh yeah,
Um,
they did that with the Operation Varsity Blues documentary where
okay.
they have Matthew Modine play out like the sleazy dude that was getting everybody into like Stanford and stuff.
Yeah, see, it's like, why do they do that, man? It literally is just so unnecessary, man. It's I mean, number one, it doesn't add anything to the story because the narratives and the meta narratives are already really solid. That's why the documentary is good, right? Like we want to know about MK Ultra and we want to know about this mysterious person, Frank Olson, right? Like we have the meta narrative, we have the narrative, right? Like I get it. I don't need anybody to act it out. Like it's just
Right,
really
like
dumb, but
your story should stand on its own merits. Like you shouldn't need this
right.
extra and like that's an interest or intriguing enough story to like try to like solve the mystery than like actually like, oh, here's a dramatic reenactment of the what's going on. Like it
Yeah, the guy
Yeah,
who plays Frank Olson is Peter Sarsgaard.
oh yeah.
So, I mean, very
He,
quite famous, right? Like, I mean, it's it's
yeah, he's the
it's pretty intensely famous for like a docu-series, but I don't know,
I
whatever.
mean, dude, Matthew Modine playing some fucking sleazeball,
Yeah,
like
same
selling
thing.
fucking like
Yeah,
same thing. Like Matthew Modine, like okay, he's not what he used to be, but like still big name.
yeah. And I think this guy's more of an up and comer, if I'm not correct on that.
He had a bit of a run, I think, in the 2000s, but he hasn't really done anything huge since then.
Oh, really? I thought he was doing more stuff lately, like more in this kind of realm where he's doing more like Netflix or Hulu stuff or whatever.
Yeah, maybe
Could
he
be
went from
wrong.
like movie
I'm never
star
wrong.
to like television star is what I
Television
think
star.
happened.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
yeah.
There's levels to this shit.
Yeah.
Um,
His
but yeah,
apex mountain was Jarhead, Peter
yeah, that's
Skarsgård.
right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Dude, but I think like honestly, man, it really is a good it's a really cool for people who are not familiar with MK Ultra, they're not familiar with a lot of the really weird shit the government has done. It's a cool introduction and it's a little fun little documentary, you know?
Yeah. I'll have to
No,
check
it
it out for
sounds
sure.
sounds super interesting, but I agree with you. I was like, I hate when they do like the artificial like play like reenactment thing. Is like I don't
Yeah, it
need that.
sucks.
Like it's just like an extra thing you're adding because you're on TV, so you feel like you need to add
You,
like some visual aspect to it, and it just kind of is like almost like weird unless you
it's
just get used to it.
you know what the
Totally.
problem is it justifies the bullshit that we hate. Like that's what justifies turning a 2-hour documentary into a 6-episode docu series.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
and they're
Hmm.
doing it because like most of they're doing this because every Fast and the Furious movie makes over $1 billion.
Well, that's
Like
also that's what I hated about the Bob Lazar doc, and I don't wanna take it with another direction, but, like, the Bob Lazar doc was just incredibly weird, and
it was weird.
it could have just totally been his story and, like, some archival footage, and I would have been like, "This was a great documentary and, like, very informative. Thank you for giving me his take." But instead, it was, like, guys doing rain dances and masks and stuff, like, it was very weird, man. It was just, like, completely bizarre stuff, dude.
Yeah. I have like huge pet peeves when it comes to documentaries like that. Like the one is reenactments, hate them, should never be in a documentary. And the other thing is the documentarian himself should never inject himself into the actual film. Like
Oh, that's Ken Burns. He doesn't actually put his body in, but man,
well,
does
at
Ken Burns
least
put himself into the
at
film.
least he has the restraint to not put his body and his voice into his you know
No, totally.
even Ken
I'm
Burns has
kidding
a
around.
line.
Yeah, I'm kidding around. I'm kidding around. But no,
But
that is gross. That's really gross. And that's like I think are you doing like an allude to Bob Lazar and that weirdo who he's always hanging out with? What's his
yeah,
name?
Jeremy
Yeah,
Corbyn.
Jeremy Corbyn. Fucking
Yeah.
God, that guy needs to just go get the coffee and just not be around. Like seriously, he literally just should be a coffee fetcher and should never open his mouth. That guy's the worst. Who likes that guy? Is there anyone that likes that guy? Like,
No.
is there a fan base of just like have you ever found like a Jeremy Corbyn Discord or something like where there's like a base of people who like think who platform his ideas? He's awful. He's awful, man.
Yeah, he's a
He's the
big
worst.
zero.
Yeah, he is very dude, he is very flat. Like He's very flat, low energy,
'Cause
sad, very
all
sad
he,
man.
all he says is just like, "I believe Bob. Bob's a very honest guy." Like, that's like, and that's on repeat,
And
basically
he's
over
been
and over
saying the
again.
same shit like on Coast to Coast AM for like 20 years about everybody, right? Oh, this guy saw Sasquatch. This guy did this. Whatever. I think that guy's a weirdo, but whatever. I think we're
Jumps
getting
on
short
whatever
on
hype
time.
train. Yeah, we're
What do
actually
you guys
over a little
got?
bit, but it's
What do you guys got?
been
Any last words, Drewski? Because we're in Drew Film Festival here. I don't want to cut you short.
I as far as there isn't a lot going out. Unfortunately, there's the new, like I've alluded to several times, new Fast and the Furious, which I just cannot believe this is still going on.
My
well,
girlfriend loves him, dude. She
Dude, I
fucking loves him,
cannot
dude.
believe it. I can't
dude,
like
it was
don't
such a
want to
big
speak
deal. He
ill of the
got
dead, but I was really hoping that the series would end with Paul Walker. Fortunately, it didn't.
no,
But
he got Vin Diesel got approved for 5 more movies after that. Like literally, like they signed a contract like right after his death for like 5 more Fast and Furiouses that we're seeing now. So I think we
And
got
you
one
see him
more
as
to
like an
go.
angel. He's like driving next to fucking
Yeah,
Vin Diesel and fucking as a shadow.
yeah. Well, it's like the Transformers movies and all those like just completely off the top. People just like them because they got the CGI action. That's it, you know. But
yeah.
Nah, too
Oh,
cool.
I was thinking about this the other day. Like I was reflecting more on Mayor of Easttown, and I decided
Yeah.
I hated it. It ends
Yeah, it
horribly.
wasn't good.
I
It wasn't
hate
good.
would not 2 thumbs down.
two
Would not
thumbs
I
recommend.
down.
I normally hate anything with a strong female lead. Um, take that for what it is, people. I'm sorry, but I just do. It's not quality to me. Um, and it shines through in this. Someone who's like addicted to drugs, they have all this drama, they make all the wrong decisions. I mean, all the wrong decisions. And then yeah, sure, they have like a victory in there somewhere. I don't know. That's not the life I aspire to. It's certainly not the life I aspire for my lovely ladies out in the world to aspire to. So yeah, I'm not into it. But
Yeah,
it wasn't relatable to me
that's
at
what I look
all.
for in strong female leads, planting drugs on innocent women.
Exactly, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like you're a fucking mess. You can't take care of your family. Everyone doesn't like you. You're a complete bitch, and you're utterly disliked by everyone because you're miserable. And then you literally do crimes. You're a criminal. Like, you can't. This is so bad. It's so bad. It's not relatable at all. So, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I think we're at time. Sorry for my clap there. That's probably gonna be hard to edit out, but I thought it was a great episode. McAfee, Mr. McAfee, rest in peace. Rip, rip. You probably
Yeah.
didn't deserve to go. You should have been living in a perpetual party. You didn't sound like a too bad of a guy. Maybe you killed a guy in Belize. I don't know. Maybe you deserved it. I'm not sure. I'm not going to pass a value judgment. Innocent until proven guilty. But I thought we talked about a lot of great movies as well. And we gave some good tax advice. Pay your taxes. So yeah, I thought it was a great episode, and I had a lot of fun. And I'm actually going to go watch Army of the Dead right now. So
Nice.
with that, Mike, what do you got for us?
Yeah, that's it. I thought it was great. I'm gonna definitely watch these movies and see what they're all about. So, sure, you got any
Cheers.
last comments?
Good night.
Good riddance.
Peace.